the Devil's Toy Box. Our first story takes us down to North Louisiana and to a supposed Halloween attraction so terrifying, people whispered it was a direct portal to hell. They called it the Devil's Toy Box. The legend describes a simple, unassuming shack, but the inside is where the horror begins. The walls, floor, and ceiling are lined entirely with mirrors, creating a dizzying, endless reflection of anyone brave enough to step inside. The story goes that if you stood in the center of this box for 5 minutes, all alone and in total darkness, something unspeakable would happen. According to the most popular tellings, your own reflection would start to warp and distort, smiling when you're not, moving when you stand perfectly still. But that's just the start. The legend insists that at the 5-minute mark, the devil himself will appear in the reflections. And he won't just scare you. The story claims he'll reach out from the mirrored walls, flay you alive, and steal your soul, trapping it in the infinite reflections for all eternity. It's a terrifying thought, blending intense psychological horror with the ultimate supernatural dread. The fear of losing your mind in a hall of mirrors gets cranked up to 11 with the fear of losing your soul. For years, people have searched for this mythical attraction, with many claiming it was a real, underground, haunted house that was shut down after visitors either went insane or just vanished. The legend spread like wildfire online, becoming a classic internet ghost story shared every Halloween. But the truth of the Devil's Toy Box is, in its own way, just as strange as the legend. The story seems to have started with a work of horror fiction written in 2015 by author Joel Farrelly. His story was so chilling and effective that it escaped its fictional origins and took on a life of its own, becoming a modern urban legend that people genuinely believed was real. What makes this even weirder is that a Devil's Toy Box does exist, just not as a haunted house. In the world of paranormal research, the term refers to a 6-sided mirrored box that ghost hunters use to try and capture and communicate with spirits. The idea is that the reflective surfaces can trap and amplify spiritual energy. So, while the soul-stealing demon shack in Louisiana might be fiction, the idea of using a mirrored box to summon something from the other side is a real practice, blurring that line between a scary story and a seriously dangerous paranormal experiment. The Idaho Halloween Massacre. Our next story is a perfect example of how one creepy image can spark a whole horrifying legend. It's a tale that feels like it was ripped straight from a slasher film script. And for a long time, a lot of people were convinced it was a real, unsolved crime. The story is known as the Idaho Halloween Massacre of 1962. It starts, like so many great horror stories do, with a group of teenagers at a Halloween party in a small, isolated town. They were all gathered in a house having a good time, totally clueless that one of their own had something way more sinister planned than just bobbing for apples. As the legend goes, one of the partygoers, hiding his face behind a grotesque, homemade mask, a sort of grinning, black hooded face, just snapped. He locked all the doors and windows from the inside, trapping everyone. Then came a night of absolute terror. One by one, he murdered 7 of his friends before somehow slipping out into the night, leaving behind a scene of unimaginable carnage. The local cops were baffled, and the FBI was eventually called in. All they ever found was the killer's mask. The person who wore it was never identified. The case, as they say, remains cold. The story got its power from a grainy, black and white photo that went viral. The picture shows a group of young people at a Halloween party, and sure enough, in the background, one figure stands out. A person wearing that exact, grinning black mask. The image is undeniably eerie, and the caption that always came with it told the story of the massacre, painting the masked figure as the killer hiding in plain sight. It's a terrifying thought. A murderer caught on film just moments before a rampage, his identity forever hidden by a cheap Halloween costume. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. The Idaho Halloween Massacre of 1962 never happened. Not a bit of it. The entire story is a fabrication, a piece of internet folklore cooked up to give a spooky old photograph a backstory. The fact-checking website Snopes thoroughly debunked the whole thing, finding zero evidence of any mass murder in Idaho or anywhere else on Halloween in 1962. The photo is real, but the story is pure fiction. And yet, the legend won't die. It's a powerful reminder of how easily terror can be manufactured online. That grinning mask became so iconic. It didn't need a true story to be scary. It just needed an audience ready to believe the monster in the picture was real. This tale isn't about a real killer. It's about the birth of a phantom, created by the internet and fueled by our collective fear of the unknown face in the crowd. The Bunny Man. While some legends are spun from fiction, our last story is rooted in a series of bizarre and genuinely scary real-life events. It goes to show that sometimes the truth is way stranger and more disturbing than any ghost story. This is the legend of the Bunny Man. The story is most famous in Fairfax County, Virginia, and it centers around a local landmark known as the Bunny Man Bridge, a concrete tunnel under a railway line. For decades, the legend has claimed the bridge is haunted by the ghost of a man who escaped a local asylum. Dressed in a rabbit costume, he supposedly skins rabbits and hangs their carcasses from the bridge, and on Halloween night, he attacks anyone who dares to get too close. Over the years, the story got wilder, with claims of teenagers being found hanging from the bridge and warnings that you can sometimes see the Bunny Man's ghost on dark, foggy nights. It sounds like a classic urban legend, right? A local bogeyman cooked up to scare teenagers. But here's the thing. The Bunny Man was real. Not a ghost, but a very real person. In October of 1970, two separate and terrifying incidents were reported to the Fairfax County Police. The first involved a couple driving near the bridge late one night. Suddenly, a man in a white suit with long rabbit ears stepped out into the road. He started screaming at them about trespassing, and then he hurled a hatchet at their car, shattering the windshield as they floored it. Just a couple of weeks later, it happened again. A security guard at a nearby housing development found a man on the front porch of an unfinished home, again, in a bunny suit, methodically chopping at the porch railing with an axe. When the guard confronted him, the Bunny Man warned him to stay away before just wandering off into the woods. The police launched a full investigation, but could never identify the man in the rabbit suit. There was no asylum bus crash, and no patients were missing, which debunked a huge part of the later legend. No murders were ever officially connected to him. But the image of a man in a bunny costume wielding a hatchet was just too bizarre and too frightening to be forgotten. The community started telling the story, and with every retelling, it grew. The real man with a hatchet morphed into a supernatural, rabbit-skinning serial killer. The real site of his bizarre appearances became the infamous Bunny Man Bridge. This legend is so disturbing because it's one of those rare cases where you can trace a terrifying piece of folklore right back to a set of real, unsolved, and deeply unsettling events. We don't know who the Bunny Man was or what he wanted, and that uncertainty is probably the scariest part of all. The stories we tell, especially around Halloween, really say a lot about what we fear. The Devil's Toy Box shows how modern anxieties can create brand new myths, born from the depths of the internet and a primal fear of our own minds. The Idaho Halloween Massacre shows how a single fake story can become a viral nightmare, proving that sometimes the scariest monsters are the ones we make up ourselves. And finally, the tale of the Bunny Man is a chilling reminder that reality can be far more horrifying than fiction, leaving behind a legacy of fear that blurs the line between a real person and a monstrous legend. For many, these tales have been lost to time, overshadowed by more famous ghouls and ghosts. But they're still out there, lingering in the corners of local history and the dark web, waiting to be found. They remind us that the most disturbing stories are often the ones that feel a little too real. Thanks for joining us as we dug up these forgotten tales. If you enjoyed this trip into the weird and unknown, do us a favor and like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into dark history and modern myths. The world is full of strange stories, and we're here to tell them. Now, we want to hear from you. Which of these 3 tales did you find the most disturbing? Let us know in the comments below, and feel free to share any unsettling Halloween stories you've heard. You never know what local legend is just waiting to be told. Stay safe and be careful what stories you listen to in the dark.